Not all of Adolf Hitler's executioners and those of the Nazi dictatorship were men, but there were many women co-opted by the National Socialist ideology who followed the horrific orders of the regime without questioning them. However, among all the sadists who patrolled the streets of the largest concentration camp in history, Maria Mandell stood out. None of the prisoners under her command dared to look her directly in the eyes or to stop doing their work, much less to contradict her orders, since doing so meant an unbearable death. In this video, we will tell you the story of a brutal and bestial woman who ended the lives of more than 500,000 people, including women and children. Welcome to Military History. January 10, 1912, is a date marked in red on the calendar of 20th century history. That is the birth date of Maria Mandell, infamously known as the SS Lagerführerin, which is what women leaders of zones were called in the terrifying Auschwitz II extermination camp. Who would later be known as the BEAST of Auschwitz, was born in Münzkirchen, a small Austrian village, into a modest family dedicated to shoemaking. After completing her studies in her city, Maria moved to study at a Bürgerschule, a kind of center where students were prepared for commercial and craft tasks. There, Maria enjoyed great popularity thanks to her undeniable beauty. After a series of job failures, Maria finally found work in October 1938, thanks to a relative who worked for the Führer's regime. The young woman was hired as a guard at the incipient internment center of Lichtenberg, one of the first Nazi concentration camps. When this sinister establishment became too small to accommodate the large number of arriving prisoners, the Ravensbrook camp was built in 1939, which was reserved only for women, an ideal space for the beast to feed and grow. In Ravensbrook is where she began to earn her perverse fame due to the inhumane treatment she subjected the inmates to. Although her job consisted of training other companions in administrative tasks, Maria Mandel wanted to be at the forefront of cruelty. This place represented the first step on the path this woman took to perpetrate the most macabre humiliations, tortures, and crimes that the average human mind can imagine. In the camp, Mandel was in charge of the daily routine of the inmates, and those who did not withstand the exhausting sessions were transferred to the punishment bunker, where they were humiliated and punished. In these torturous sessions, they were subjected to all kinds of floggings in batches of 25, 50, 75, and 100 blows each, until they collapsed, victims of exhaustion. During the punishment, they were forced to count aloud, although none ever reached 10. The culmination of these acts of sadism occurred when Maria stood in front of the inmates waiting for someone to dare to look at her. According to a survivor of the camp, she was capable of staring at you for hours, trying to break you. Anyone who broke the rule and looked up disappeared. We never heard from her again. From the gas chamber, she went straight to the crematory oven without anyone being able to say goodbye to her. It was even said that sometimes she sent them straight to the oven. After impressing her superiors with her brutal methods, Maria was promoted to female SS guard with extermination rank, nothing less than in Auschwitz. It was there that she truly lived up to her nickname, unleashing her cruelty and deploying all her potential for evil and perversion. Maria Mandel controlled all the female camps and enjoyed absolute power over the lives of thousands and thousands of prisoners. One of her favorite tasks was to select the inmates who were to be executed in the gas chambers and which ones were to be destined for forced labor. In the case of the latter, she only spared their lives for amusement, like a predator playing with its prey, knowing perfectly well that if the prisoners were not eliminated at that moment, they would be in the near future. Many times, these women who were spared became something very much like pets, or as Mandel called them, Jewish pets. For a period of time, she would sponsor and consider them, until finally opting to eliminate them as coldly as the others. Interestingly, one of the concerns of the Beast of Auschwitz was the cleanliness of the camp's prisoners. For example, after each execution, the prisoners' uniforms were not incinerated along with the corpses, but were reused to be worn by other inmates. Not burning them helped avoid toxic fumes in the chimneys, which the prisoners of the extermination camp would have breathed. More than an act of humanity, it was sadism of Maria Mandel, since this act, in her own words, was to keep the prisoners alive to amuse myself later. The Beast of Auschwitz clearly savored subjecting them to the worst tortures and humiliations while they were alive. For example, the SS Lagerführerin liked to wear gloves of pristine white to see them stained red with the blood, mainly of the women flagellated by her whip, which made no distinctions between young, older girls. The fact that this satanic woman was especially ruthless with women, children, and girls was because they represented the possibility of the continuity of the Jewish lineage, and she was not going to allow it. They were an inferior race, and the anti-Jewish beast was going to make sure they knew it and eliminate them. After her transfer in 1944 to the subcamp of Mühldorf in Dachau, where she continued to perpetrate indescribable tortures and carry out her selections for the gas chamber, Maria Mandell was forced to flee with the imminent arrival of the Allies. Her plan was to return home, but after 10 days of fleeing, she was captured and interrogated by the American Army on August 10, 1945. After being detained for approximately a year, she was transferred to Poland, where she would be tried for crimes against humanity. During that trial, the voices, until then oppressed, of the inmates who had been rescued from the extermination camps where Maria Mandell had carried out her criminal abuses were heard. Without accepting the charges against her, much less assuming guilt, Mandell declared, denying all the atrocities she had committed, "I had neither whip nor dog. While serving in Auschwitz, I was hindered by the terrible severity of Rudolf Höss. I was totally dependent on the commander and could not inflict any punishment." On December 22, 1947, the court handed down its verdict, and Maria Mandell was sentenced to die by hanging for murdering, torturing, and humiliating 500,000 people, including an immeasurable number of children. After her conviction, Mandell had the opportunity to repent of her crimes, with a prisoner named Stanisława Raczławowa, a former Auschwitz prisoner who was imprisoned on charges of being a communist, in the same prison cell. The prisoner recounts that the Beast of Auschwitz asked her forgiveness for everything that had happened, but those apologies were never made public. Maria Mandel was hanged on January 24, 1948, amidst cries of "Long live Poland" at the age of 36. We are now reaching the end of this video, and we would like to ask you to leave your opinion about this sinister character in the comments below. That's it for today's video. We thank you for watching until the end, and we look forward to seeing you in the upcoming installments of Military History.